Good evening and welcome once again to another edition of Special Assignment. I'm your host, Ashraf Garda. You would recall a while ago we investigated the impact of coal mining on the catchment of the Vaal River and showed how, as consumers, we will all be paying more for water soon. That because of rising levels of pollution from intense mining development in Mpumalanga. Well, tonight we continue the water and mining journey. How will wall-to-wall platinum mining in the Northwest impact on both the availability and the quality of water? In tonight's show, we investigate how tourism, mines and communities compete for water security. This against the backdrop of infrastructure backlogs. We also explore the simmering discontent of communities faced with drying boreholes and rising water costs. We ask whether threats to ecotourism are being taken seriously by mines determined to grow market share and their bottom line, often taking priority over the environment. This report by Anna Maria Lombard.
In a country that promised itself in its constitution to create an environment that's not harmful to health and well-being, we take the pulse of communities in the Platinum Belt.
The country is going to suffer eventually. People are trying to deny it, but get to the West Rand and see the impact of mining on the water. You get to Mpumalanga, the situation is even worse. People who do not have water like the Northwestern, if you contaminate their water, then what is going to happen?
That week that ended up in Marikana, but the entire week changed all of our lives. That caused us to take a step back and say, well, we need to do things differently.
The soft issues are no longer soft. They are now hard issues. Issues such as environmental and social performance. These issues can no longer be ignored. It is also hard because it's very hard to get right if things go wrong.
This is an illegal water connection in an informal settlement. It's near Marikana in the mining belt of the drought-stricken Northwest Province. This is the man who made it. 8 years ago, Chris Molabatsi led a group of 80 families in buying pipes and hooking up to a local borehole. But soon they discovered the municipality digging up their pipes.
When people went to fetch the water in the morning, then they found people busy there and they couldn't find the water. So they called me and I went over there. They were actually people from the municipality, the workers from the municipality. We said, no, you can't just cut our line off without us and without providing an alternative.
It pained Chris to be arrested for standing on his rights 10 years into democracy.
The captain then said, no, this is not a matter for us to get into. We must send these people, make an appointment for them to meet the municipality.
In 8 years, the municipality never got round to installing yard taps, which Chris says they'd be happy to pay for. Every new tenant in the settlement pays a 15 Rand connection fee. Chris chairs a committee that supervises strict rules of the tap. A 50 Rand fine if you're caught drinking straight from the tap or causing any leaks or spills. Every drop is gold.
The problem, these guys.
Chris had come to Rustenburg to start a small business, but these events launched him into a life of activism.
All these other squatter camps are being, supplied with water. They are using the tanks to supply them with water. They are very inconsistent. They are very inconsistent. They do come once, sometimes per week. And, it's not like you can get as enough water as you would like to use. And we've got children here. People are going to bed without water, without food as a result. People have to take days, without washing. We really can't move.
Living space is shrinking as thousands of job seekers flood to the platinum-rich volcanic reef that stretches all the way from Mpumalanga across Gauteng to northwest and into the Limpopo. It's the richest platinum group metals reef in the world. Only 10 years ago, Rustenburg housed less than 100,000 people. Today it's over 500,000. Platinum was discovered in the 1920s, but mining only really started from the 70s, when the right technology and prices made it profitable. It's a very rare metal for which new uses are being discovered daily, from converters that reduce car exhaust fumes to computer hard drives to fertilizers and even cancer drugs. The Northwest is also famous for the Pilanesberg National Park, established in the late 70s with the largest game relocations the country had ever seen.
You're sitting on one of the wealthiest mining regions in the world, and at the same time you've had this incredible product, Sun City and the Pilanesberg National Park, which has become one of the 4 major tourist attractions in the country and world-renowned. And you have these two groups who each operate in an exclusive fashion, but should be actually working together for their mutual benefit.
Platinum mining and tourism took off after apartheid when our borders opened up and investors ventured in. But 3 decades on, relations are strained.
I mean, I don't know if you realize that the Pilanesberg National Park in its own right has very little water. The lodges in the area are not able to drill boreholes because there isn't enough water to sustain the lodges, as is the case at Sun City. One of the major projects that happened in the early days of Sun City was the major water pipeline that came from the Valkop Dam. We tap off that pipeline for Kwamaratani and for Bakabung, as does the Bakabung community live off that pipeline.
We are unsure if we would be able to go ahead with our extensions if the new mines in the areas start beginning.
65 applications for new mines are before the Department of Mineral Resources. Sun City needs 7.5 million litres a day, and it's expensive water that comes from far away. 2 big dams have already been built in Lesotho. The deal for a third one was signed this year. This is to ensure that all the big mines and industries up north will have water in the future. But first, all this clean water runs through Gauteng, where neutralized but still polluted acid mine water from the West Rand's defunct gold mines have begun to be released into the rivers that flow northwest.
This particular catchment, the Croc catchment, the Department of Water Affairs indicated that the catchment was 120% oversubscribed and that this figure did not take into account the very important statutory requirements of the ecological reserve allocation.
The ecological reserve is a portion of water that should be left untouched so that nature can renew itself. Environmental scientist Shan Holmes says we need to plan for this before worrying about water for mines or people. But it looks like all the available water and more has already been earmarked for industry that will pollute it.
The new National Water Resource Strategy document moving forward to 2025 is in fact a polluting strategy. It is in fact a highly polluting strategy because we are drawing a lot more water out of the Lesotho Highlands scheme. This is blue water, clean water, that is being used to dilute a very high total dissolved solids content in the Vaal barrage.
The notoriously polluted Vaal barrage gets water back from Gauteng after it's been through the province's sewage works, and then it sends it off to the northwest.
What we have picked up in recent times is that our water quality from the Valkop Dam has decreased quite drastically. We have been here for 32 years and would like to carry on like this. Where some mining activities or some mines, life of mine will be not even 12 years. They come in, pollute the water, take a lot of resources, energy and water-wise, and then they leave. And it impacts really on Sun City, and at this stage we stand at the back of the line.
But if tourism feels they are at the back of the line, spare a thought for the long-time residents of the Platinum Belt. In August last year, the Platinum Belt exploded into international headlines when 44 people died and many more were injured in a week when labour strikes went very wrong. On the surface it was about wages, but that was just a symptom. The disease is that mining fails to improve life locally, says David van Wyk.
Marikana used to be a farming town. It used to have maize farms around it and so on. The agricultural economy has collapsed in that particular area, so that people who used to be farm workers are really in a desperate situation because the mines employ migrant labour, they employ very little local labour. So the farm workers mostly have lost their jobs and they don't really have an opportunity of getting new employment in the mines.
No work and strained living. These are the conditions that the Benchmarks Foundation investigates, and for 6 years their research has strenuously warned that tension is brewing, and not just at Marikana.
There is a predatory situation that is developing with the mines growing into the area of Pilanesberg. The mines have an impact on groundwater, particularly with regard to aquifers. When the mine is a shaft mine, if the aquifer is above the tunnel, the aquifer has to be drained in order to make the mining conditions safe. Or else, even worse than that, the mines pump concrete into the aquifer and it becomes a solid piece of rock, so as to prevent mine accidents from happening and workers drowning underground and so on. And obviously, if you're a farmer and you've got a well that taps into that aquifer, or you've got a borehole that taps into that aquifer, suddenly that aquifer is no longer available to you. This commodifies water, and this forces communities now to buy water where previously they had the water for free.
Coming up next, we ask the mines how they see the community's concerns.
It's meeting day in Chaneng, 10 minutes down the road from Sun City. Environmental consultants have come to fulfill a legal requirement to inform affected parties about new developments at the mine across the road. Local activist Joseph Magobe, who also works with the Benchmarks Foundation, is unimpressed that so few people seem to have been called.
The community leaders, traditional leadership from these communities are not here. But they are not here. But I'm making this very extraordinary proposal that we shouldn't go on.
The community is really frustrated, with how the mine in general is conducting themselves. They come with unsustainable solutions. And the community is realizing that these people are fooling us.
World-renowned activist Mariette Lieferink has thrown her weight behind the people of the Pilanesberg to keep water users accountable. In this case, a mine that claims to have enough resources to keep going for 60 years.
Mining companies must realize that the entitlements that flow from mining are very far-reaching. For example, the consent of landowners or occupiers of the land is not required. So there are certain balancing mechanisms, softening mechanisms that can assist communities to soften the impact of mining. And the foremost of that, very important, is your public participation process. And that is why a public participation process cannot be simply a ticking of boxes. So what you say at these public participation meetings is of utmost importance. But I would concur that if there is poor representative of the broad-based community, then your concerns cannot be captured.
The Bafokeng Rasimoni platinum mine started as a joint venture between Anglo Platinum, the biggest platinum mine in the world, and the Royal Bafokeng Authority, the recognized traditional leadership and the wealthiest tribe in the world. The mine wouldn't discuss allegations of polluting boreholes and overlooking the community on camera, but wrote to us that their relationship is with the Royal Bafokeng Authority.
As Chaneng community, we are directly affected communities. No other communities affected like us. How then do we benefit from such an operation which has caused a huge inconvenience to us? You can think of many things ranging from water, noise, destroying livelihoods, farms, our heritage, which is land, taking all of those things without our permission. We think that it would be better if we are shareholders in this particular project.
The mine is adamant that their partners and shareholders are the Royal Bafokeng Authority, although Joseph says the chief lives far away in Phokeng. How should the Chaneng activists, without finances or political clout, get independent opinion on the true state of their water? The mine says their experts have satisfied them that they're not responsible for polluted groundwater. The mine also says that they've ploughed significant investment into local development priorities set by the partners.
If we are going to be faced with a situation of not having water, which is life, we are going to fight, and surely there will be revolution in this community.
Whether revolution is what Muti Pelani had in mind when he called the community of Mutlabi together in 2008, only history will show. But he did want to discuss the fact that Mutlabi had been left out of the race for development and benefits from the mine that they could see mushrooming on the horizon. But Muti Pelani was stopped by a High Court interdict obtained by the chief of the Bakgatla Bagafela, seated in Moruleng, far away.
We write a letter to Nyalala that we are pulling out from the Bakgatla Bagafela administration. We want to be on our own. Because all our money goes to Moruleng, but in turn, we don't benefit a cent. Where we are residing now, we have purchased this land under them as trustees, but we don't owe them a cent.
Freedom of association is guaranteed by the Constitution, and so with the help of the Legal Resources Centre, they pursued the matter all the way to the Constitutional Court. The court found in their favour just this year, and now they can secede from the Bakgatla if they want. But even if they do secede, how will their concerns be addressed by a mine already partnered with their opponents?
People who are running this mine, they are quite aware that we, Mutlabi community, we are the claimant of that mine. But they don't consult us. Even now we've got boreholes, but those boreholes, we've got a reservoir. They don't maintain it.
I also went on a visit of the area to see the visible evidence of the mining activities in the area. I then approached the CEO of Platinum and requested the Environmental Management Program report, the Social and Labour Plan, the Water Use Licence, and I also asked for the specialists' reports. These reports all amounted to about 8,011 pages. I was provided very laudably with these documents, but I was asked to deliver payment of more than 7,000 rand. While this may not be a problem perhaps for a person that has sufficient financial means, it of course is a tremendous challenge for poor communities.
The documents that Mariette studied set her on a collision course with management when she discovered the mine was operating without a water use licence, a crucial bit of paperwork that defines how a mine should use, treat and dispose of water.
I went to the local police station, Mogwasi police station, and laid criminal charges against them. I merely quoted from their own reports, because from their own reports it is very clear that they had already diverted the Wilgerspruit River.
Platinum was outraged, accusing Mariette of being self-serving and lacking legitimacy. They wouldn't speak to us on camera but questioned her integrity, saying her organisation insisted on spreading misleading information, deliberately obscuring and omitting the relevant facts and context.
We are processing the license application for Pilanesberg Platinum Mine. We are expecting them to comply. As we have been engaging them, they know what is expected of them, because we have the license application process is quite a tedious process. We have had several meetings with them. We have indicated to them the kind of issues that we would like addressed in terms of protecting the resources in that area, including groundwater.
Platinum has been waiting for a water use licence from government since 2008, like many other mines. They say they operate under close government scrutiny and that they've even helped government to extend water to these remote areas.
We have also observed that bowls cannot be used for 24 hours. So we are working together with the mines and the municipalities to really make sure that we accelerate supply of potable water, because that is sustainable, because in that particular aquifer there isn't enough water. So primary to Magali's water is to make sure that we give potable water to the communities.
Platinum says they're dealing with numerous stakeholders on how their land will be used after mining. The plan now is to flood their massive open-cast pit once it's mined out.
It was our opinion that there had not been sufficient studies done to determine what the quality of the water would be. There has also not been sufficient studies done with regards to the management of the infrastructure and who will carry the cost for the long-term treatment of the water in the pit and also the infrastructure.
Plattman says the life of this mine is 15 years, and they also have plans to extend mining to adjoining farms.
All of these areas are adjoining. So what it really is wall-to-wall applications for further mining by Plattman.
Plattman insists they're treating their process water and they'll restore the river they've diverted to flow into the big pit. The Department of Mineral Resources told us they've approved Plattman's plan to turn the pit into a strategic water resource.
We don't really have the mechanism in place to assure us that this is, number one, indeed possible, and number two, in fact, it will be carried out. But more importantly, if this further mining activity goes ahead, it severely compromises existing ecotourism business within and around the Pilanesberg, and in fact it will severely compromise Big Five conservation and protection efforts.
So what does the future hold? Is there a better way forward? Answers in a moment.
Sunset in the Pilanesberg. If you're going on a game drive or planning to buy land in the vicinity, you'll have to look hard and far for a piece of earth where mines have not encroached. We spent time in a well-known tourist area where the crunch and grind and bright lights never die down.
And in reality, the mines are some of our bigger clients. So we want to work together. There's no issue about us not wanting mining. We just want the mining to happen in such a manner that tourism can run in parallel with it and that we can work together.
In April this year, Mariette invited all the big players to talk.
It was also necessary to establish a platform, also to allow for liaison between the different stakeholders.
Do I think the Water Forum's working? Well, we had the meeting, but I'm a bit worried that it's sort of got a lull, and I think also that all of the participants in the process have probably gone and become defensive instead of constructive. And I'm hoping that that can be reversed.
But it seems at least one mine has started to learn the hard lessons.
That week that ended up in Marikana changed all of our lives, and that caused us to take a step back and say, well, we need to do things differently. We can't say that it's changed our lives if we don't do things differently. And what was important for us is to be in a listening mode. Does mining have an impact on groundwater? Yes, it does, because we mine into those areas and we pump groundwater out. It does impact. Mining in general impact on the environment. We impact on people. It's how we manage that impact. We see our future with leaving behind sustainable communities, communities that can survive without a mine. And it's a very aspirational target that we're setting, because the one thing that we're very aware of is that we're not going to do it on our own. As a mining industry or as Lonmin on our own, we can't do it.
We also feel as the Benchmarks Foundation that the government lost a golden opportunity with the Farlam Commission. It should have actually set the parameters of the commission to investigate the entire platinum belt. It's like putting an elastoplast on a huge big wound, and it's not actually going to resolve anything because it's not going to reveal the actual underlying problems in the Rustenburg area that could lead to more Marikana type incidents in the future.
Now, what is your take on this issue? I'd like you to comment, and if you're tweeting, use the hashtag special assignment. You also have the option to post a comment on our official Facebook page or email us. Lastly, I've picked out 2 comments from last week's show in which we exposed how the family courts fail to issue protection orders for women trapped in abusive relationships. Prince Indlovu tweeted, "I honestly think our laws protect the perpetrators more than it does the victims of domestic violence." And a tweet from FH saying, "Disgusted at the advice given by the family court to women who get abused. Are these people adequately trained?" Well, that's it for tonight. Join us again next week when we point out the issues that matter.